What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to Axel's Analysis. As always, I'm the host, the man who's too cheap to make up his own name, so that's still one, Axel Mulligan. NXT, obviously, as always. Commentary team, Rich Brennan, Alex Riley, Renee Young. I'll get into that later because I've just got a fucking huge rant on Renee Young, as always. Brennan, Riley, can't fault him. Renee Young, yeah. We've been here before, I've explained it before, but I'll get to her later on. The first match was the new tag team, the Vaudevillains, against two local jobbers, T. Perkins and Matt Sugarman. I like the Vaudevillains. They're quite entertaining. I mean, I've spoken to a few people on Twitter who aren't too keen on them, but I quite like them, you know. The one thing that bothers me is that they always talk about them as though Aiden's not been there for the last year. Obviously, he has. He had this really good gimmick where he was the drama king, as he called himself. And Simon Gotch is quite impressive as well, you know. He's quite a strong character, quite a strong guy. No, I'm impressed. As you can imagine, the Vaudevillains, they are getting over as a face team. Whether that was the initial intention or not, I'd imagine it was, but they are definitely going to be a baby face team. So they picked up the win, same sort of combination as last week with Aiden hitting the diving senton. I can't remember what they said they called it now. I've literally just been in a rush to get all my notes sorted out. But they won with a diving senton. And as I said, they're looking to get them over as a face tag team. As I said, there's a few people who aren't keen on it, but I've just said to them, look, at least they're doing something now with the tag division. You know, you've got the Vaudevillains there, you've got the Legionnaires, you've got obviously the Ascension, a couple of other teams as well, you know. So, you know, at least they're doing something with it, which is a good sign. And obviously, you know, that's only a good sign for years to come if these teams can stay together. Next match of the night was Xavier Woods versus I'm going to call him Bullshit Dempsey because this guy's fucking awful. They billed this as his debut, and I've seen him at least half a dozen times on the show. He bored the living shit out of me. He's just another sort of Mojo Rawley, really, just a heel. He dominated the entire match, which was about 4 or 5 minutes long. Obviously, Xavier had a little bit of offense, but no, Dempsey won with it's like a body slam / side slam combination, and it's called the Bulldozer. As I said, Bullshit Dempsey. Didn't really do much for me. The crowd were sort of slightly behind it, I suppose, but I wasn't that interested. We had our CJ Parker moment though before that match. And his sign this week said, "Stop the big thought." And the stop, where it said stop, it was like a stop sign. And the word stop was used as eyes, and then it had like a sad face on the sign. And the other side of it was every day is Earth Day. Obviously, it's all about global warming and CJ Parker wanting to save the world, basically. But, you know, as I've said before, I like where they're going with the gimmick. He's on TV every week. He's going somewhere, and I like it. As I've said before, I'm likening it to a combination between CM Punk and Bad News Barrett. Whether people will agree with that or not, I don't know. But no, I like it, you know. I like CJ. His basic in-ring skills are good. He just needs a new finisher, as I've said multiple times in the past. The third match of the night was Summer Rae. Obviously, she had Charlotte and Sasha Banks in her corner against another debut, Becky Lynch. And we've got another typical fucking Irish gimmick. How many more of these do we need? We've had Hornswoggle in the past. We've got Sheamus on the main roster who just likes to fucking drink Guinness. And now we've got Becky Lynch who comes out fucking doing an Irish jig. And honestly, Becky Lynch, from what I can gather, I don't know a lot about her, but from what I've read from people on Twitter and what I've read on dirt sheets and forums and whatnot, she's actually quite a good wrestler. Apparently, she didn't really do a lot to impress me. She was quite sloppy. She won with a T-bone suplex, which is a move I've not seen as a finishing move, obviously, since the days of Shelton Benjamin. But she hit the finisher well, don't get me wrong, but overall she didn't really impress me. Obviously, we're getting more dissension between the BFFs, and yeah, obviously, I think this is leading up to the next live show for NXT. maybe like a triple threat match. And I'd personally like to see Sasha Banks come out on top. I think she's really like the unsung hero of that group, where Charlotte gets a lot of praise mainly because of who her father is. Summer Rae gets a lot of praise because she's on the main roster. She's doing that total bullshit divas crap. But Sasha Banks seems to go under the radar a lot. And I'm a big fan of Sasha. I've said before, and I know there's a lot of people that are as well. So, I'm hoping that if we do get that match, that Sasha sort of, she'll come out on top. She'll be the next NXT Women's Champion. Segment 4, my favourite part of the show. And anybody who's sort of read anything that I put on Twitter about this next segment, they'll know why. Colin Cassady versus Sawyer Fulton. It was only a quick match again. We've had quite a lot of quick matches in the show, and that's why I'm only 6 minutes into this recording now, and I'm on the penultimate match of the evening. But I'll probably end up talking about this for a little while because it was just brilliant. I loved it. Colin Cassady versus Sawyer Fulton. Cassady won with a big elbow drop. And I'm actually surprised he's not used that as a finishing move until now, to be honest with you. He's got that East River crossing, which the move's good. I just don't like the name of it, as I've said before. But the elbow drop that he uses could be used as a finisher more often because he actually delivers it with quite a lot of velocity and ferocity. So I like it. I'm a big fan of Cass, as I've said before. I don't know a lot about Sawyer Fulton. I've only seen him on the show a few times, so I can't really comment on that. But big Cass, he's a good worker. As I say, one with a big elbow drop, short match. After the match, he's sort of doing his little celebrations in the ring. Woohoo, I won. And the Legionnaires come out to confront him, and as they're getting into the ring, this is the part. It got the biggest pop of the night, and I can't remember the last time I marked out so much. We got the return. Finally, we got the return of Enzo Amore, and I absolutely loved it. I'm a massive, massive fan of Enzo. His promo skills. If there's anybody in NXT who can deliver a promo better than Enzo Amore, point me in their direction, because I can guarantee you there isn't anybody. I would say, in fact, he's one of the top 5 in the entire WWE. He's that good, honestly. I even went through a lot of his old promos on YouTube just to sort of... I just love Enzo. I mean, I can't even put it into words. He's that good on the mic, and I'm not exaggerating. I think a lot of people will agree with me. Obviously, looks that we're going to get a feud between the Legionnaires and Big Cass and Enzo. Enzo did all his usual shtick on the mic, calling them soft and sort of the bada boom, the realist guys. I just love it. Everything that he comes out with is just hilarious, and the way he delivers as well. He doesn't stumble on his words. He doesn't stutter on his words like I do. He's just brilliant. He really is. He's just such a natural talker, and I'm looking forward to the day he's finally on the main roster. I mean, I was thinking, obviously we had like Oliver Gray was cut after he come back from injury. Evan Bourne's been cut. He's been coming back from injuries. We've had a few of these kinds of sort of scenarios recently, but I know Enzo's on good terms with guys like Triple H and John Cena, but I still had it in the back of my mind he's going to get released because he's not got the physical look that they usually go for. But I think that they'll keep him. I don't think that he sort of, when he gets onto the main roster, I don't think he'll catapult into like a main event spot, but I think he'd be one of the very top mid card guys. And that's very hard to come by these days, where you get somebody who's just on the cusp of the main event, but they never make it. Obviously, like on the main roster, remember we've got like Bad News Barrett and Cesaro, who are just sort of on that sort of the middle, like in the middle between the mid card and the main event. And they will make the main event. It's just you don't get the guys who just sort of stay right at the top of the mid card, but never quite make the step up. You don't get that these days. So I reckon that's where we're going to see Enzo, and I can see Big Cass. Just talk about Big Cass for a while, because I don't really talk about him that much. As I say, I'm a big fan of his. I can see him being a big star in the WWE because he's got the look. He's got the big physical presence. He's got the long hair, the beard. He can talk on the mic. He's good in-ring skills. I think the sooner we don't want them pushed up too soon, because they might sort of get the reactions that you don't want them to get, like when Bray Wyatt first came up to the main roster. All right, he wasn't pushed up too early, but he got a few Husky Harris chants. You know, you don't want those negative reactions. But when Cass and Enzo come up to the main roster, I think it needs to be promoted well. I think they need the right videos to promote it. Get them up there as a tag team initially. Have them sort of floating around for 3, maybe 4 years. Have them break off on their own. And I think Cass could be in that main event spot because he's got the look. Simply, he's just got it. And as I say, Enzo, I think he'd be one of those just doesn't quite make the main event. And that's literally because of how he talks. He's just phenomenal. Moving on to the main event rather. Adrian Neville versus RVD, Rob Van Dam. As I said before, Rob Van Dam is my all-time favourite wrestler. And even I'll admit, his matches, probably since his TNA run, have been fucking awful. This was RVD's best match. Yeah, he had a good match with Chris Jericho last year, but aside from that, this was RVD's best match since he left the WWE in 2007, after a stretcher match with Randy Orton. I didn't watch a lot of his TNA stuff, granted, but what I saw of it, I just was like, his heart wasn't in it, and he just like just sort of he was earning money without really doing much to earn it. So, but I think with this match, what it was is that he knew that he was in the ring with somebody special, somebody who's going to be big in the WWE with Adrian Neville, and he's got a future, Neville has, whereas RVD's sort of like at the tail end of his career. He's not gonna be a world champion again, is he? But he knows that Neville, he's got the ability there, and he's got the knowledge in his mind to be able to help Neville just push him up that little bit further. So, and that was why I believe Neville won this match. Sadly, I'm not going to talk too much about the match. It was an incredible match, don't get me wrong. It's one of the best. I would put it in the top 10 matches of the year for NXT. That's a good thing about NXT as well. Sorry, we've just had so many good matches this year, but this one was brilliant. And now for the part that soured it for me. As I said before, I'm going to have a rant about Renee Young because she was fucking, oh my god. She pissed me off something chronic in this match because we had Tyler Breeze on commentary. They got rid of Riley and they put Breeze on commentary. And Renee Young was just asking the stupidest of fucking questions. And every time Tyler Breeze was coming back and he was just owning her. And she still just persisted in asking stupid questions. Just someone get her off her fucking commentary. As I said before, I respect everybody's opinions as long as they can back them up. Renee Young doesn't know diddly squat about wrestling, in my opinion. You know, she's not got an educated view on commentary. She's not got an educated view in her interviews. She's just annoying. It's the only way I can describe Renee Young as annoying. I don't mind her interviews because it's just a case of, you know, how are you preparing for your match tonight? You know, she's speaking to wrestler A to talk about wrestler B. I don't mind that. That's what an interviewer's job is to do. But a commentator's job is to talk about the wrestling matches, not fucking ask stupid questions like, oh, do you think that you're going to get an Emmy award for your single? It's not any relation. You've got a big match going on in the ring. RVD versus Adrian Neville, you know, a former 3-time world champion, or well, 2-time world champion in the WWE, versus the current NXT champion. The NXT champion means you are the cream of the crop within that part of the company. RVD is an all-time legend. Regardless of what anybody says, RVD is a legend. You've got these two big guys going at it one-on-one in the ring, having an incredible match. And all you can sit there doing, Renee Young, is talking about fucking Tyler Breeze's single. Is he going to release an album? Is he going to get an Emmy Award? Fuck off. Nobody cares. I don't care. If you've got an opinion on this, just pop a comment down below. Get me on Twitter at Axel. It's just, she pisses me off. First is the flirting with Regal. That doesn't do it for me. And then it's just the stupid remarks and comments on commentary. Oh, honestly. Neville won the match with the Red Arrow. Afterwards, we had like a show of respect from RVD. He sort of looked a bit surprised that he lost, even though he, you know, sometimes where the guy gets the shoulder up just after the 3 count, but RVD didn't do that. He sort of, he didn't even look like he was trying to get up after the 3 count. And I don't know, it was a bit weird, and they had a big show of respect afterwards, which was good to see. You know, RVD, they did the fist pump, and RVD raised Neville's hands, and it was a good little way to end the match. And thankfully, that was the end of NXT. I enjoyed the show. I had to put this match on mute after a while though, because of these stupid fucking questions coming from Renee Young's goal. There's nothing promoted for next week so far, but I've given the show this week a 6.5 simply for the brilliant main event. Absolutely phenomenal match, I thought. As I said, it's RVD's best match in 7 years. Aside from the match he had with Jericho last year on Raw, it's his best match for 7 years, hands down. And the return of Enzo, as I said, he got the biggest pop of the night. Even Adrian Neville and RVD didn't get as big a pop as Enzo Amore did. I thought he was brilliant. It's almost as though he's not been away, and he's just going back into it. And his promo delivery was perfect. It was all the same stuff that he usually does, but he was perfect. He really was. So yeah, I've given it a 6.5 out of 10 for this week's episode of NXT. It's been I've not sort of gone too much into detail this week. It was all rushed. I've had a bit of a hectic week. My older brother Lee's had to go into hospital for a kidney transplant, so I've been off to see him today. I've literally just got back before doing this. All my notes are rushed. I've not got any sort of emphasis behind a lot of things, but I just wanted to sort of get the show out there, really. That was all. The news for this week, I did manage to sort the news out before I left this morning to go and see my brother. The first bit, Bo Dallas got married this week, so congratulations to him. His sister broke the news, I believe, was on Twitter. This is all stuff I'm getting off the dirt sheets, to be honest with you. We got a couple of NXT debuts coming up soon. Slate Randall, who's been in the news recently, saying that he had a concussion, but the concussion he suffered was a couple of months ago, and the dirt sheets are a little bit behind as always. And the second one is Braun Strowman. I don't know anything about the two of them, so something to look forward to see how they get on. Something I mentioned on Twitter last night as well, Vicky Guerrero to be going into the WWE Hall of Fame perhaps as early as next year. I'm a bit in two minds about this because she's had a good run in the WWE. Obviously, if you've seen Raw this week, she's been fired by Stephanie McMahon. She had a match where she got thrown into a pool of mud or whatever it was. She'd be fired, and she got thrown in first. So Vicky, her contract had expired. She saw out her contract, and she's now gone. She's been with the company for 9 years, but talk of her going into the Hall of Fame, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure because as much as she's had a good run, she had some really good moments. The marriage with Edge, she got tombstoned by the Undertaker, all these different moments, and she's been probably one of the best heels actually because she always gets heat. She did wonders for the career of Dolph Ziggler, not so much for Jack Swagger or Eric Escobar for that. Her general manager work wasn't always great. It was good, but it wasn't always as good as it could have been. A lot of it was just spent belittling Teddy Long, and I was a bit of a Teddy Long fan back in the day until the tag team matches started becoming a weekly thing and holla holla holla, etc. But I think it might be a bit too soon. She might have a Hall of Fame worthy career if you were to look back, say, in 10 years' time, but I would say at the moment no, because you haven't got time to sit there and digest it over the next, what are we talking, 10 months, 8 months until WrestleMania next year. So I don't know, maybe by then we'll have had enough time to digest their career and sort of look back and think, no, she had a good run, she's worthy of a spot in the Hall of Fame. But then on the flip side of that, there's guys who should have been in years ago, the Macho Man Randy Savage himself, he should have been in a long, long time ago. The Fabulous Freebirds. These guys aren't in there, but Vicky could just get a spot like that. And I mean, she was only in the WWE courtesy of Eddie, Obviously, Eddie's a Hall of Famer himself, so obviously that would be something maybe that WWE are looking at, having the first husband and wife in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know. Well, obviously, we'll see what happens next April when WrestleMania rolls around. Kevin Steen, obviously, there's been a lot of talk in recent months about Kevin Steen's Ring of Honor deal. signing with WWE, but reports are saying that his Ring of Honor deal is due to expire on the 19th of July this year. I'd love to see Steen in the WWE, I really would, and I think he will sign. But how he gets used and how he gets put over, what character he uses, what name he uses, I think he needs to stick with the same as what he's got now, because he's carved out such a fantastic legacy under the Kevin Steen name, the Kevin Steen character, the gimmick. The only thing obviously he won't be able to use would be the package pile driver, but he's a clever enough guy, he's a good enough wrestler to work out a new finishing move for himself, and I can't see Vince McMahon or Triple H sort of letting him use the move, because it can be deemed quite a dangerous move. Obviously, if you've seen what happened to Steve Austin with Owen Hart, I mean, it's a different kind of pile driver, but I'm not speaking from experience, because obviously I've never worked in the ring, but I would guess that the package pile driver could still be quite a dangerous move as well. So we'll see if and when Kevin Steen signs for the WWE, what they do with him. The other bit of news on signings, Prince Devitt is not taking any European bookings after the end of July, so sort of August onwards. So that looks like a sign that he'll be going to the WWE, getting some work around the Indies maybe before signing his contract. Again, I've still not seen any of Devitt, or enough of Devitt to have a real opinion on him. So we'll see what happens when that finally comes around. And the other thing as well is what I read as I was on my way back earlier, is that Kent is going to be announced as a WWE superstar. I believe it's when the WWE tour Japan. I can't remember if it was July or August that I read, but he's going to be announced as a WWE guy when they go to Japan in the next month or two. So something to look forward to, because Kent is obviously, he's a big name over in Japan. He's a big name in America. Everybody's sort of seen enough of his work to have an opinion. I think he's a very good wrestler, obviously, as a lot of people do. So we'll see if and when he signs, obviously what they do with him, as well as, Steen and Devitt. So something to look forward to, really, because, as much as they've signed a lot of indie guys over recent years, or a lot of guys from abroad, or overseas rather, it's good to see, because it's not just now the world, it is more so the world wrestling entertainment as opposed to American wrestling entertainment, because predominantly sort of 10 years ago you wouldn't have many foreign wrestlers. You'd have like Regal, obviously you'd have a few of the Canadians as well, but obviously, and the Mexicans, but you didn't really have anybody from Europe. So it's good that you've got, I think I'm right saying Devitt's Irish, I could be wrong, and Kent is obviously from Japan. So obviously, got more like English or British wrestlers on the main roster. Got a couple of French guys in NXT. Got Cesaro from Switzerland. Rusev from Bulgaria. It really is becoming more of world wrestling entertainment as opposed to just American wrestling entertainment. So, it's good moves that the WWE are making. The birthdays for this week, there's actually half a dozen or so again. June the 25th was the birthday of Layla. She turned 37. June the 26th we had two on that day. We had James J. Dillon, the manager of the Four Horsemen, Matt Striker. James J. Dillon turned 67 and Matt Striker 40. June the 27th would have been the birthday of Boris Malenko. He would have been 81. Boris Malenko obviously being the father of Dean Malenko. June the 28th, former Paul Heyman guy, John Heidenreich. Fucking hell, Heidenreich. I always remember the poems that I used to write, and used to stalk Michael Cole whilst reading these poems. I thought it was brilliant at the time, but I look now and I think the character was interesting, and we'll leave it at that, because I didn't think he was that good of a wrestler. And the way that he was petrified of caskets as well when he had that casket match with The Undertaker, I thought that was pretty well done. And Serena, formerly an ally of CM Punk in the Straight Edge Society, she turned 28. That's June the 20th, that's today. And June the 29th, so tomorrow, Cody Rhodes turns 29 years old. I actually thought Cody was a couple of years younger, but 29, I think he needs to sort of, once he's sort of done with this Stardust, however long it's going to last, I don't know. I mean, I'm enjoying it, I find it really entertaining. But I think he just needs something to just push him that little bit further. And he's got all the tools to be a world champion, and probably should have had, you know, a few one-on-one world championship matches by now. But obviously that's not, you know, it's not been the case. But I don't know anybody who's not a Cody Rhodes fan, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. That, you know, he just needs something to push himself that little bit further, just to become that world champion that he's, you know, he's gonna be. He will be a world champion, I think. This day in WWE history, next part of the show. June the 23rd, I got two for this date, June the 23rd. Stone Cold Steve Austin won the 1996 King of the Ring. And the infamous Austin 316 speech. We had that, the interview that he had with Michael Hayes after the match. Obviously, you know, Austin 316 just became a huge phenomenon after King of the Ring 96. Obviously, big moment. And Brock Lesnar, talking to King of the Ring, Brock Lesnar defeated RVD in the final to become the 2002 King of the Ring. And obviously, he went on to SummerSlam in 2002 to defeat The Rock to become the WWE Undisputed Champion as it was at the time, rather. And he was the last Undisputed Champion as well. He moved to SmackDown from the Raw brand in July or early August, I don't remember now. And he wanted to work exclusively for SmackDown after he won the Undisputed Championship. And thus we had the World Heavyweight Championship brought back in, and obviously, you know, given to Triple H. And yeah, not something that I agree with, and not something that a lot of people agree with. June the 24th, Johnny Nitro defeated CM Punk to win the vacant ECW World Heavyweight Championship. That was at Vengeance Night of Champions 2007. Obviously, Chris Benoit should have been there that night. He wasn't. Yeah, said last week Chris Benoit was a bit of a sore subject among fans, but I think that was a sign that Chris Benoit would have beaten Punk to become the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. June the 25th, John Cena made his WWE debut on SmackDown versus Kurt Angle at a SmackDown taping in 2002. I can't remember if I've said it on the show before, but I say it on Facebook all the time, you know. I got a lot of respect for what John Cena does, you know, with all his charity work. He's, you know, say what you will about his character on screen, and that, you know, how he's a 14-time world champion and probably going to be a 15-time world champion after tomorrow night. But the guy's so dedicated to his job. You know, he can put a guy over. He doesn't always put them over by losing the matches, but he can put a guy over in victory. You know, you look at Cesaro a few months back. Biggest match of Cesaro's WWE career at the time, and it was a hell of a match. It was one of the best matches that I've seen in the last 10 years, and certainly in my opinion one of John Cena's best matches, and probably Cesaro's best WWE match. Say what you will about John Cena, I don't agree with how he's booked, but he's a hell of a company guy. I mean, he had the neck surgery a few years back after he took that powerbomb from Batista, and you know, they sort of did what they had to do with his neck, and he got up off his bed. And, you know, where are you going, John? I'm going to work. And he was at Raw. He wasn't on the show, but he appeared backstage. You know, that's a company guy. Bit of an idiot for not taking doctor's advice and sort of resting up, but you know, you can't argue with his work ethic. It's second to none, really. June the 26th, Buddy Rogers passed away at the age of 71 due to heart failure. Buddy Rogers, the Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, the first ever WWF champion. June the 27th, Matt Bourne, famous for the Doink the Clown gimmick. He passed away age 55 due to a drug overdose / heart attack. Always loved Doink the Clown. I mean, I didn't start watching wrestling properly until I was like 13, so it was around SummerSlam 2000. But I always knew Doink the Clown was, and I always knew Dink was as well. You know, his little midget clown. It's one of those ones where you didn't have to watch wrestling to know who it was. You know, everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was. I didn't watch wrestling until 2000. By then, Hulk Hogan was long gone from the WWE. But I liked Mr. Nanny when I was a kid, so that's how I knew of Hulk Hogan. Well, speaking of Hulk Hogan, actually, June the 27th, himself, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels and John Cena defeated Chris Jericho, Tyson Tomko and Christian on Raw in 2005. That was a main event match. And that was to sort of help promote the feud between John Cena and Chris Jericho. It's just before Jericho's departure, where he sort of left Raw kicking and screaming like a whining little bitch. And in my opinion, that's the best firing that there's ever been in WWE. Played it perfectly, and the way he describes it on his DVD as well, just phenomenal. Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels, obviously, they went on to SummerSlam to have their Icon versus Icon match. I believe it main event in the pay-per-view. I've not seen it in a long time, so I don't remember. I just remember Shawn overselling absolutely everything, even the big boot. He got knocked down, he sort of got back up again and stumbled around and fell onto his back. It was brilliant. I think it was more of a piss take from Shawn, to be honest with you, than selling it to make Hogan look good. But no, I can't remember now why. There was a reason why Tomko and Christian were in the match, but I don't remember now. It was like 9 years ago. June the 28th, the infamous King of the Ring 1998 pay-per-view, where I believe Ken Shamrock was the King of the Ring that year. I might be wrong, it might have been Billy Gunn. I can't remember. But what I wanted to talk about was the Undertaker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell match. What a match. I mean, Mick Foley getting thrown off the cell. I can't remember if he got knocked out, but he got thrown off of the cell, obviously through the announce table, gets sort of taken out on a stretcher, and he always said, I didn't want that match to end that way. He wanted to leave on his own 2 feet, under his own power and supervision, got back up, went back up to the top of the cell, wham, Undertaker choke slams him through. Brilliant, phenomenal. You can't question the work ethic of back in the day was Mick Foley. He wrestled matches, he had an ear ripped off, the amount of thumbtacks he had through his skin and barbed wire in his face, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, obviously he's paying the price for it now because he's got bad knees and a bad back and everything, but what he put his body on the line for the business was just phenomenal. I've got nothing but the utmost respect for Mick Foley. He's absolutely just, I think Ric Flair called him a spot monkey, and I would say Ric Flair's wrong. Mick Foley was a hell of a wrestler as well. You just can't put it into words for me. He's just fantastic. End of the show, as always, I'll do the shout-outs. First off, Tim Vicious, at Tim Vicious and at Tim_Vicious. Make sure you look for Vicious Rants on YouTube. Excuse me. Sunday Segway podcast, at Sunday Segway on Twitter. You can find them on YouTube, Stitcher Radio, Podomatic, Mixcloud, and iTunes, and fucking everywhere, I think. I'm gonna have to speak to Kenny and find out where he does it. And I'm gonna have to put a list in the notes bit down below, because I can never remember. There's so many places where you can get the Segway podcast. You can get their app as well for, I believe it's on the Android or the smartphone or one or the other. But I'll find out, and I'll make sure that's all on there for next week's show. At James Powers 33, got his own show as well, James's Wrestling Rambles. That's on Twitter, Mixcloud, and Podomatic. I was on James's show last week. It was really good fun. So make sure you listen to James's Wrestling Ramble. At PW Smart Talk, at Wrestling Rambles, and at Tony Walker, as well as Tony's podcast page at WM Podcast. That's for the Wrestling Matters podcast, which is on Podomatic and YouTube. And if that's anywhere else as well, I'll let you know next week. Tony does sort of reviews and sort of looking into like what shows are going to be, and I think he's not been doing it that long, but he's getting there. He got quite high on the Podomatic sort of charts, if you will, a couple of weeks ago. So fair play to you, Tony. I can't get anyone to fucking listen to my show on there, so whatever your secret is, man, just tell me. As well, I just want to give a shout out. I don't know if he's listening or if he will listen to this. My brother, as I said, he went in for a kidney transplant on Thursday. Just want to wish him all the best. I've been in to see him today. He looks really well. He's looking really good. A lot of positive news coming from the doctors about it all. So get better soon, Lee, and you'll probably end up kicking my ass at golf within the next few months. So, as I said, if you're listening, get well soon, man. That's the end of the show, guys. Look for me on Twitter at Axel Mulligan and at Axel's Analysis. Thanks for everybody who listens to my shows every week. I know I'll probably only get about 60 hits over YouTube and Podomatic. I have started putting it on Mixcloud as well now, so just look out for it on Twitter. I've got a Facebook page as well. I'll put a link to that down below. Just thanks very much for listening, guys, and I'll see you again next week.